Okay, we are now streaming live on YouTube.
Cool, thanks. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the October 30th meeting, second meeting of October. So I just want to, before we jump into any agenda items, mention that we have a TNT meeting scheduled for November 13th. I think that's in 2 weeks at 5:30. So this is earlier than 7 p.m. to run through a outdoor dining proposal or outdoor dining application from Istanbul. So make sure to put that on your calendar. There should be an email from Dorothy coming out about that. With that, we have two items on our agenda. One is an NTA update on the R-Line ADA project, and second is a presentation from Transportation Alternative. So with that, I think we start off with the NTA presentation first.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Farley from MTA Government and Community Relations. I know some of you know me. I had covered Community Board 10 years ago. My colleague Nick Rollison moved on, so I'm back. And I'm happy to come to present on this project because it's something we talked about many years ago, and I'm glad to see that it's coming to fruition. So I just want to introduce who's with me tonight from our team. Is Hassam Ali is the project manager for the ADA project. And I also have with me Jenna Blakeman and Kaylee Ingram, who are also from the project team and handle outreach and other issues with the project. So they'll be on hand to answer any questions we have after the presentation, and I will get started with that. Just let me share my screen in 1 minute. Oops. Okay, can you guys let me know if you can see?
It's not come across yet.
Oh wait, hold on. Is it up yet? No?
Not yet.
No.
Oh, so what's going on? Let me try again. Here we go.
All right.
Okay, we're on.
Okay.
Okay, so tonight we are here. The board asked us to come and give a presentation on an update of the accessibility upgrades at the 95th Street R station. And as you know, I'm going to go through the next couple of slides pretty quickly because you guys are all aware of the project and the area. So as we mentioned back in last year in 2023, when the project started, this station is a part of a bundle of 4 stations to get ADA accessibility upgrades and are part of our larger initiative to increase accessibility throughout the New York City transit system. And through the 4 projects, they include escalators, new elevators, and staircase upgrades at the various stations. It's a design build contract that was awarded to JTRAC and TC Electric joint venture in December of 2022. We started in September 23, and we have an anticipated completion date of third quarter 2025. So as you know, the 95th Street R station is the final stop on the R line in Brooklyn. It's located at the intersection of 95th Street and 4th Avenue, and it's an underground station with 1 island platform that has 2 tracks and then staircases for access to and from the street. So the scope of the project is we're going to install, and we are installing 2 elevators, one from the street to the mezzanine level, and then one from the mezzanine level to the platform. There will be ADA compliant staircases with ADA compliant railings, an ADA compliant platform and boarding areas. We'll have an ADA compliant restroom that will be for the public use. And then also there will be ADA compliant sidewalk ramps at the station entrance intersections. And this is a rendering of what the elevator kiosk will look like on the street level. Also customer benefits that come with the project. We're making some state of good repair improvements. There are station utility upgrades, improved lighting, and then improved back-end communications for signals, that kind of thing. As you know, underneath we have a pretty big area that's not open to the public that has different rooms for signals and communications. So we're doing some work back there while we're in the station. So the elevator and the staircases improvements, the stairs will be upgraded with treads and ADA compliant handrails, and then the new elevator. The ADA compliant boarding areas with the warding panels and the rubbing boards. And this is an aerial view and kind of a cross section of the station. So this shows the street elevator at the corner by the library. Over here is the street stair that we call S3 that leads down to the mezzanine level. So somebody will take the elevator from the street. This red like ribbon shows you the path. They'll come down to the mezzanine level into the control area. There's a control gate, an ADA compliant control gate to let people in, and then they'll follow this red path down to the mezzanine to platform elevator, and then they'll come down to the platform level and it'll leave them out at the ADA boarding area. We also did work on, this is what we call stair P1, which is that first staircase when you come in through the fare control area and the paid area down to the platform. And then this is what we call stair P3, which is the second staircase in the station that leads down to the platform also. So as we mentioned back in September, we mobilized in September 2023, and some of our anticipated goals for completion are for the street to mezzanine elevator is spring 2025. Also the mezzanine to platform elevator, spring 2025. We have the two staircases. So the mezzanine to platform staircase was completed in May of this year and is open for use. And then we're working on the street to mezzanine staircase, which we anticipate opening to service in early 2025. So there were some, as you know, service impacts during the project. We had some weekend service diversions that took place where we had, we ran shuttle buses to the closed stations. We also had other work going on in the R line, so we took advantage of that. We had the staircase closures while we were working on those. And we have the barricades in place for the station for safety and at street level, and signage up at the station to direct people to various access points and just wayfinding information. We also have, as you know, there was a temporary loss of parking while we did the work, and sidewalk and travel lane closures. We've been maintaining access to businesses during this time, and the impacts, the dates of when we close the street and the parking are communicated in advance. So the completed work so far. So in January 2024, we completed the staircase P1, which is that first staircase in the fare control area here, down to the platform. And then we also have some new ADA compliant deal tray for the token booth at the station. April 2024, we completed the walls for the elevator machine rooms and the janitor's closet, and we're also working on the ADA compliant public restroom. In May 2024, we completed the ADA compliant staircase from the mezzanine to the platform. And in June, we completed the platform edge tactile and the rubbing board on what we call track 2. And this July, we completed the elevator shaft for what we call elevator 381, which is the elevator that will take people from the mezzanine to the platform level. So there's a picture there of the work that's been ongoing. In August, we completed the platform tactile edge and rubbing boards on track 1. And for September, we have the installation of elevator 380, which a head house, which is the street to mezzanine level elevator, and this will be the housing for that. So we have some pretty good pictures there, and I'm sure you can see some of it, but these are pretty good pictures without having barricade in your way. So we have ongoing work for both elevators, which include the concrete, installing the concrete for the roof slabs, the elevator shaft, demolition and restoration of the sidewalk area, installation of the platform safety railings, and then building and installing the substructure. And then we'll also have final testing processes for both elevators, and these are ongoing, and we anticipate opening to service for the public in spring of 2025. And we'll, of course, keep you posted on as we get close to that date and specific dates. We also have ongoing work for the street stair. That's stair S3. We had demolition of the walls for an illuminated handrail conduit, installation of stair treads, handrails, and the K-rail, and also an illuminated handrail. And that we're planning to start work this next month. We also have what we call general orders, which are the service diversions, which have been communicated in advance. We put posters up. So as you know, this week on the overnights, we had work that required the R to be what we called short line. So it was running between 95th Street and 59th Street. And that was running on it was single tracking on the northbound track. So there was notification put out for that. So at 5 a.m., the service is back for the morning, and we had signs put out. We have signs posted for visibility for the nearby businesses. And then here's our project information, the project email, 4 stations ADA improvements at Gmail. They also have a project hotline for non-emergency questions and concerns. You have my contact information, and Joe O'Donnell, who's from our MTA Construction and Development office, who couldn't be with us tonight. We also have his information available if the board has any other questions. And we can take some questions and comments, and I'm happy to unshare my screen, or I can leave it up if somebody wants me to go back to any of the renderings or the drawings.
All right, thanks, Melissa. So we'll open up for questions. Just look at hands raised. Okay, Dora, yeah, I see your hand raised. Do you want to go first? Question? Dora, sorry. You're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
95th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue has been closed for traffic. How long will that continue? Because that's a really busy street. Because we have very weird streets out in that area. There are not a lot of them that go through, and that's an important connecting area.
Okay, Hassam, Hassam, do you have that information for that street, that temporary street closure?
We have DOT permit up to the end of this year. Just we finish the construction work, and we just feel that we are not going to not damaging any nearby asset. We are going to open it to the public. We're still working for construction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So Doris, as soon as we have that date, we'll get that to you. I know that the other day when I was out there, they were moving steel and other materials. So just to keep it, and local traffic has been able to go through, right, Hassam?
Exactly. We're working right now for restoring the sidewalks and the curbs. Just we feel that it's safe for the public. We are going to open it.
So we'll keep you updated on that.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Dean.
Yeah, hi, Melissa. It's Dean Rossini. How are you? My question is this. On the platform where people have to traverse from one end to the other, they're going past an area where there's a staircase in the middle. How much space is there between that staircase and the edge of the platform? That's my first question.
Melissa, you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I unmuted. Hassam, do you have that width?
Excuse me, which area exactly, which specific area you talk about?
Let me see
I'm
if I can.
speaking about the platform where passengers have to traverse from one end to the other get to the elevator. So in doing that, they have to pass by a staircase. How much space is between the edge of the staircase and the edge of the platform? That's my first question.
Okay, the minimum as per the standards is 5 feet. We already providing it. It's available right there. And this is what we have existing right there.
So, sorry,
Okay.
one clarifying question. I know that you have a second question. One clarifying question is, does the 5 feet include like the yellow border rubber area, as you call it? And second, including, okay. And second, from this chart, within the red line, I don't think we do need to pass through a staircase, or am I reading this incorrectly? So you go down the elevator, you pass through the control gate, and then within that platform, there's no platform because we're on the mezzanine. Then you go to elevator and get down. There's no staircases to pass through. Is that correct?
The point of 95th Street, it's a middle island platform, so it's little tight. This is the reason that it's maybe tight from both sides.
Well, I think
existing condition.
Yeah, I think that you're correct, Jack, that if it's somebody that's in a wheelchair or with a walker or something like that, and when they're passing through the mezzanine level to the elevator and down, you know, the pathway that they would take would be to that ADA boarding area. But we still have a 5-foot clearance, which is a typical ADA clearance, even up on the street. Like that's what DOT requires behind like a shelter, that kind of thing, that, you know, down the rest of the way. But if anybody is trying to board using the ADA elevator and that area, then they would not be passing the staircase that way. You know, they would board the train where they know that they can get off and get on and get to the elevator. But we can confirm the 5 feet.
Okay.
For
Dean.
you and Dean. Okay.
Yeah, my concern with that specifically, Melissa, is this. I've been using the subways recently, Garmont Grand Jury, and I would say almost every staircase, there's people that kind of hang on the rail between the edge of the platform and the railing, which really narrows the amount of space a person has. And I find even with myself, I wind up very close to the edge of the platform when I'm walking by there. So is there something we can work at preventing people from standing and hanging on those rails and forcing people out closer to the edge of the platform?
You know what, Dean, let me bring that back, because that's probably a system-wide concern. I understand what you're talking about, and as Hassam said, because this is an island platform, some of those island platforms a little bit narrow. Is not much we could do with the platform because of the track, but I can ask about the staircase in general and those railings to try to keep people away from, you know, standing there and blocking that pathway.
He asking all over the city.
Even something as simple as having signs on there, do not stand, sit here. You know, maybe that'll prevent some people from doing it.
Right, okay. All right, yeah, sure, we'll bring that back and see if there's any
Thank you.
initiatives that they might be interested in doing for that. Okay.
All right. I see just one more hand. So if there's anyone in the room that has, feel free to raise your hand in the meantime. Stephanie, we'll run to you.
Thank you. I was just wondering about the elevator on the street side. By how many feet have you extended the sidewalk into the street in order to accommodate the elevator?
Going to toss that to you, Hassam.
Approximately 10 feet out of the old curb.
So the street itself then for cars has been reduced by 10, well, actually.
Yes, this was the agreement from the beginning. We are going to reduce the car lanes, and we got a permission from DOT before we starting the construction work. So we have to get this space to do our elevator.
Mhm.
Because we have to keep a passageway between the library curb and the
Right.
new elevator.
Okay,
And
thank,
yeah, and this is something that's not, it's not uncommon at other stations that we have due to the station configuration
yes.
and where we could put the elevator. So we do understand that, you know, any loss of street space is a concern. But we hope, you know, we hope the elevator is a plus too for everybody.
I was just wondering, two things regarding that. Please remind me again, the entrance to the elevator on the street, and then in terms of visibility for cars that are driving, I believe that street, it goes towards 4th Avenue.
East.
It's, when the car approaches, do they have visibility to the left? Like, does the elevator obscure drivers' visibility?
It shouldn't right up to the corner because we have to plan this with DOT. So
Okay.
we have to keep certain clearances for them and sight lines.
Okay.
So we can check on that, what their requirements are.
Yes, Melissa, there
Yeah.
is standards for DOT for the vision for the car riders. We already providing it. The elevator is little bit back in the side of 95th Street, not on the side of 4th Avenue, to keep the traffic visible. The DOT is care about this kind of stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I don't see it.
Yeah, Dino Hatsis just raised his hand. Jack?
All right, Dino?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the bathrooms. It's great that they're getting renovated and becoming ADA accessible. Are those going to be open 24/7, or what's going to be the deal with that? Just because bathrooms are so limited in general around the city and especially within the MTA.
Yeah, let me check. I put in a request to check on that. So I have to get back to the board on that. I'm not sure if it's going to be something where they will keep that ADA compliant bathroom open all the time, or if that's something that the person would have to be let in by the customer service agent. So let me check on that.
Okay.
All right. I'm sorry I don't have the answer on that tonight, but we'll get back to you on that.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands, so I'll just drop in a question here. So you mentioned that a state of good repair changes or also improvements will also be during this project. Can you just go into a little bit detail around what that part of the project looks like? I don't think we saw any in the slide that called that out.
Assam, can you go through those details?
This station is not part of the state of good repair. You
Yeah,
talk
but
about 137th Street. This station is state of good repair, but this one just only ADA upgrading. We already finished the work for the elevators, the ADA boarding area on the platform at the middle, and we provided the staircases, but not state of good repair. 95th Street, not state of good repair station.
Okay, so we need to check that in the presentation because we do have that in the presentation. So we'll get back to you, Jack, on that.
Okay.
The presentation was talking in general that the project is state of good repair and AD upgrading, covering the four stations, 137 and 95th and Barchester and Northern.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the presentation about the general project, but this is focused on 95th Street. So I wanted to know about any state of good repair changes that would be coming here. But it sounds like there's none.
Well, we can get back to you. I can get back to you, Jack, on that if there's anything coming up. in that for this station in the future, in the next capital project, because some of that would be what we call component work that they would do. So I can check that for you. I apologize. We didn't specify which was for the bundle of the stations as a whole, as a general statement, and then specifically here. So thanks for pointing that out to us. We appreciate it. But I'll get back to you if anything else is coming for the 95th Street.
Okay, great. All right. Any other comments? Cool. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh, thank you, everybody. And
Thank
if you
you,
have
Melissa.
any, if you have any follow-up questions, Josephine and can reach out to me, and I'll send over the presentation tomorrow,
Great. Thank you,
a
Melissa.
PDF of that. Okay, thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So the next item on our agenda is a discussion with transportation alternatives. Maybe Justin, you can walk into talk a little bit about what this presentation is meant to do before I know I see Rose on the line here. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about what this is meant to be for?
Hi, Rose.
Do you want to go?
Hi, Rose. You sent over the PowerPoint that you wanted to share. I was having a hard time downloading it. Can you share it on your end?
Yeah, of course. And just to check, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, just as a little introduction, well, first of all, some of you know me, some of you don't. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Staten Island and South Brooklyn organizer with Transportation Alternatives. I was invited to speak tonight about just general transit and street safety trends in Community Board 10, and also about some research tools that you guys can use to find out more about what's going on your streets, and that you can take with you. So I put together a short slide deck that I can share right now. So just bear with me for a moment. Okay, can you see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can. It's a little bit zoomed in.
Small.
Okay, don't worry. I'm putting it onto presenter mode now. Is that better?
Yes, great.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so let me just move forward. So first, I'm just going to give you a few stats. What's that?
That was just, I was interested in one item on your agenda.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, so I'm just going to start with some general stats about, how safety has been over the last few years. And also, a few other data points. And then I'm going to give you a bunch of different research tools that hopefully, you guys will benefit from. So let me move forward. Yeah, so this is just a quick overview. This should read since September 2020. So I apologize for that. But yeah, so since September of 2020, there have obviously been quite a few traffic crashes in Community Board 10. Since the pandemic, crashes have been increasing across the city, and unfortunately, Community Board 10 has not, been an outlier. So there were more than 4,700 crashes, more than 2,000 injuries, and unfortunately, there have been 24 fatalities in just the last 4 years. And almost half of those fatalities have been pedestrians, a lot of them seniors. So, I kind of went through, and by the way, all of this data is from CrashMapper, and CrashMapper gets their data straight from police records. So yeah, I went, through some of that data from the last 4 years, and the most dangerous streets probably shouldn't be a surprise. The top one was for crashes was 4th Avenue, which I'm sure isn't a surprise. A few of the other major avenues, I'm sure aren't a surprise. Of course, Fort Hamilton, and then the one non-avenue here, well, I mean, the one avenue that kind of acts as a street is Bay Ridge Avenue, which also, has had a lot of fatalities and crashes, unfortunately. And also just, for a few more things, I went over some commuting habits. This is from census data from the American, I forget the name of it, something survey that they do with the census. And so in Community Board 10, 22% of people commute by driving, 36% get around by subway, 9% walk, which is actually not that common. So you have a lot of people who live close to their workplaces. And then 8% commute by bus, which would probably be more if bus speeds were higher. But as for, a few other interesting tidbits, there are no, and I'm sure this is not news to you. What's that? Sorry, I thought I heard a question.
Can you mute yourself if you are not presenting? Thank you.
Under commuting habits, has that changed in the last 10 years? I'm interested to see if more people are using the subway.
I can check that. Yeah, I can check that and get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, so in what is definitely not news to you, there could be more space for pedestrians in Bay Ridge. There are no pedestrian plazas. The average bus speed, again, is only 7.8 miles per hour, which isn't actually that bad by New York City standards, which is kind of sad. But there are a number of street transformations that could help buses move quicker on our streets. And this, again, I'm sure is not news to you. Noise pollution is a major issue, and that's when we track noise pollution, it's noise pollution that comes from the street. So, noise from traffic is a major quality of life issue. And finally, this last bit, seems a little random, but it really comes down to quality of life. So Community Board 10 only has about 2.5 public benches per 10,000 residents, which is actually high by New York City standards. But when it comes to the ability of people with mobility problems to get around in public space, public benches play a really, really important role. And so these are, these things may seem small, but in the ability, when it comes to the ability for all people to enjoy public space, it makes a big difference. So I'm just gonna move on. Okay, so here's where I get to some of the tools. I have a lot of tools that I'll be introducing. So I'm really not going to have time to get deep into any of them, unfortunately. But, if you want kind of like a deeper introduction to any of them, I'd, be more than happy to do that privately. But it's just, today I'm definitely not going to have enough time. But for, a small introduction to the first tool, Crash Mapper is probably known by some of you. It's actually, a tool that I referenced earlier. So it's basically a map that allows you to, kind of draw a circle around a customized area of New York City. And you can just see how many crashes, injuries, and fatalities have happened between, between a number of years. And so I'm just going to bring you to the website quickly, so you can see what I'm talking about. Though, okay, this is not, why is it not bringing me to the map? That's very strange. Okay, I don't know why it's not bringing me to the map, but let me see. If it doesn't go, then yeah, I don't know why it's not bringing me to the map. But either way, I definitely encourage you all, or any of you who haven't gone on Crash Mapper yet, to, use it privately. If, this data is of interest to you, it's pretty intuitive to use. Once you play around with it, I think you'll kind of get the hang of it pretty quickly. And this data is updated monthly. And so, you'll always know that the information you're getting is up to date, at least, as long as New York City crash data is up to date. So just moving on from there. Okay, so this one is a little bit interesting, and it's one that I'm actually quite proud of, though I didn't actually play a role in it, but my job did. So this is something we call the New York City Bus Stop Heat Mapper. And so basically, Transportation Alternatives collaborated with NASA, and we were able to, basically get a listing of average summer heat levels in every bus stop in New York City, and not like when I'm talking about heat levels, I'm talking about what the temperature feels like, and not, what it says the temperature is. So that comes back to the heat island effect. And unsurprisingly, this isn't something that is a big problem in Bay Ridge, but in some other areas of South Brooklyn, like Canarsie, it's actually a very big deal. And in the summer, because of the lack of things like bus shelters and things like street trees, temperatures at bus stops can go, above 100 on an average summer day. And so, if you are a person who already has their health compromised and you're waiting 20 minutes for a bus at a stop where the temperature feels like more than 100, that's a pretty big deal. So, at this website, you can look at every single bus stop in New York City. see what the average summertime heat level is at that bus stop. And then it'll also show you things like whether or not there's a street tree, covering that bus stop, whether there's a shelter there, whether there's a bench there. And so you'll get information on, how different bus routes in your community look. And if there are any bus routes in your community where the stops can use shelters, where the stops can use more street trees. And so you know that that's something that might be worth advocating for, especially if there are a lot of seniors or people, with other underlying health issues who use that bus route. So moving on. Another tool that transportation alternatives help to develop is the spatial equity tool. And we worked with MIT to develop it. And basically, the spatial equity tool, this is a little harder to describe. So hopefully the website, opens to the tab I wanted to. But Spatial Equity NYC, okay, there we go, good. So it's a tool.
Sorry, before we still see your presentation, so I think you will need to change your screen share from the presentation to the website.
Oh, got it. Okay, so can you see the right tab now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. So this is Spatial Equity NYC. There's a little introductory video right here that I'm not going to play for you now, that I'm not going to show you now. But you're welcome to look at that. When you look at it, if you want to play around with the site, it's definitely one that I recommend. It has a whole, it'll give you a lot of data. So I think that what would be of most interest to you is to explore it by community profiles. And so you can literally just click on Community Board 10. So I'm going to do that. And you can look at a number of different types of information. So let's say you wanted to look at like asthma rates, which I know aren't, compared with other neighborhoods of New York City, asthma isn't the biggest problem here, but just as an example, say I wanted to look at asthma rates, it'll show you one, that in CB10, there were 45.5 asthma-related child emergency department visits per 10,000 residents. And that means that CB10 comes in, ranks 50th out of 59 districts, with the top district being the one that has, that's basically the worst, and the 59th being the best. So, CB10, so in CB10, asthma rates aren't too bad. But if you wanted to look at, say, it'll also list what are the biggest challenges. So here, if you wanted to look at something like, again, I mentioned before, pedestrian plazas, it'll show you that no residents in CB10 are within walking distance of a pedestrian plaza. And if you wanted to look at noise pollution, it'll show you that, and for this, the number one ranking community board has the most noise pollution from the street, and CB10 ranks 7. So that's, a pretty, that's not a ranking that you probably want to have. And so, that's something that needs to be addressed. Although I already know that it's something you've been advocating about a lot. But yeah, so that just kind of shows that lived experience, kind of does track with data here. And either way, there's a lot of other types of information that you can get here. And you'll also see how you rank against other community boards in the city. And for every ranking here, it'll also show you like ways to mitigate that. So for noise pollution, let's see. Okay, I don't know why it's not showing me. Well, either way, usually it'll show you like ways to mitigate that. But I know that for noise pollution, things like street trees can be very helpful in kind of absorbing that street sound. And of course, other, street transformations that kind of, help cars move slower. And, any street calming type of street mitigation project is also, will also help with that. But either way, there is a ton of information, a ton of digging that you can do on the spatial equity website. So I can go into it further one-on-one, and I definitely encourage you all to check it out privately. Okay, let me go back to, okay, can you see my presentation again?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So moving onwards. Okay, this is a website that was put out by the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. And it's a website that doesn't necessarily go into like street level type, it doesn't show you that kind of street level data directly. But a lot of what it does show you is indirectly impacted by street design. And it's also just really, really great tool to get information about your streets. And so I'm just gonna show you quickly. So basically, this goes into everything related to environmental justice in New York City. And there are a whole bunch of different mapping overlays that you can go into. And so, for example, if you wanted to look at air pollution, then you would go to, the tab for air pollution, and it'll give you information about air pollution by census data, by census tract, sorry. So it gives you the information at a really, really just like you can see it by the neighborhood level, and even by areas that are smaller than the neighborhood level. So you get a really detailed look at where air pollution is a problem, where it isn't, and then different types of air pollution. So you can look at everything from carbon to ozone to PM 2.5 to air pollution from bus depots. So it'll show you like where different bus depots are, where power plants are, just a whole, like there is so much information here. And it'll give you this by census tract across the entire city. So, I think this should be a surprise to nobody. But when it comes to air pollution, Sunset Park and Red Hook, it's a much bigger problem in Sunset Park and in Red Hook than it is in Bay Ridge. But you can look at all these different things that impact the air we breathe and see, how Bay Ridge is doing. You can also look at things like hazardous material and find out where different types of hazardous materials might be found in all of the census tracts in New York City. And it's just, there's so much information to go through that I couldn't, it would take me over an hour to kind of go through everything here. But if any of this is of interest to you, then I definitely encourage you to check out this website. But yeah, so going back to the presentation. Okay, are you guys seeing my presentation again?
We do.
Okay, and I apologize for all the information. I know it's a lot, but this presentation will be shared with all of you, and so the tools will be made available to all of you. Okay, so moving on. Okay, this is a website that that was actually launched very recently. And so I was actually at a meeting about it last week. Yeah, I think it was last week when the Parks Department kind of announced it in Staten Island. But either way, so it's something that was developed by the New York City Parks Department, and they call it the Vital Parks Explorer. And it basically allows you to look at different parks in your community and how they're doing on a bunch of different levels. So it'll show you, for example, we move down to Community Board 10 and 1. Okay, so this is like a report when it comes to what they call the elements of a vital park. So all of these boxes, so community gardens, greenways, dog runs, et cetera, et cetera. That's what the Parks Department considers vital elements of, vital park elements. And so it'll show you how CB10 ranks, compared to the city in all of these elements. And most of them are pretty good, except for community gardens. It'll show that, there's a real lack of community gardens in Community Board 10. I don't even know what a forever wild natural area is, to be honest. But I'm guessing that it's like a state park or something. But either way, so it also, you can see that there's no access to nature centers or hiking trails. So honestly, how many hiking trails are even in New York City? Not that many. So I wouldn't feel too bad about that. But either way, you can see a lot of data here about where Community Board 10 ranks overall. And then if you want to look at individual parks and see how individual parks in your community are doing, then you can just use the map. And why is this? I don't know why this is in my way, but either way, so you can, kind of zoom in and you can look at individual parks and see how individual parks do. So let me click on like greenways. And you can see like greenways. So obviously, the waterfront greenway is going to be highlighted. And then if you want to look at which parks have enforcement patrol, then you can click on this. And why? Okay, so it's being a bit wonky on my computer, but basically, like, it'll show you which parks have all of these different elements. So if you're looking for parks with the dog run, or that have patrols, or that have water fountains, or whatnot, it'll help you find it on that website. And you can also, if you see that, there's a park that really needs something and it doesn't have it, then maybe you'll like shed new light on the deficits, that different parks in your community have, and you'll know like what you need to advocate for. So moving on. Sorry, I have to keep switching between tabs. Okay, so I am almost finished. Okay, so the Vision Zero view is something that some of you might be familiar with. This is a website put together by the Department of Transportation, and it's very simple. So one, it gives you information that's basically the same as you'll find on Crash Mapper. So I'm not going to go into that too much. But you can also find, it'll show you like where, you can, well, it's not as, oh yeah, so you can go on a timeline and basically see crash rates within different time periods. But again, like that's, I think you can get that information a bit more clearly on Crash Mapper. So I'm not going to get into that too deeply here, but it also shows you like all of these are different tools that the DOT uses to, kind of try to make our streets safer. And so it'll show you where those tools have been implemented. So you can see like where all, and this map is supposed to be updated regularly. I'm not sure how often the DOT actually updates it. So, unfortunately, I can't speak to that. But it'll show you where, all the leading pedestrian intervals in the city are. And so if you can find an intersection and you say, oh, this intersection really needs it, then you can find out whether or not it has an LPI. And a leading pedestrian interval is just a, like, maybe 10-second head start at a crosswalk where traffic is stopped for everyone except for pedestrians. So basically, pedestrians get a head start before cars begin turning. And so anyway, this will show you where those treatments have been implemented and which intersections still need them. It'll show you where turn traffic calming treatments have been applied. And honestly, there haven't been too many of them. The city needs way more. And what turn traffic calming elements are kind of like those strips that you'll see at an intersection that kind of force cars to turn at a 90-degree angle. And so it kind of forces them to slow down. And so these are all the intersections that have been given that treatment. Honestly, I think that the city really needs to ramp up implementation of turn calming treatments. I would have liked the city to add things like daylighting to this map. I think, it would be really great to see which intersections have been daylit and which ones haven't, but either way. So yeah, there are other things that you can see, like, where the treatments have been added and where they have not using this map. And so, that's a good look. That's a good way to see like what the city has done on your streets to make them safer. And finally, moving on. Okay, so this should be the last one, and this is also a very, very simple website, but it's one that I actually love. Some of you may know about it, some of you may not. So basically, this will show you the width of every sidewalk in New York City. So hold on. Yeah, and so you can zoom in and it'll show you and this is based on data sets from the DOT. And so, yeah, it'll show you like on this street, this stretch of this sidewalk is 7.5 feet. And so when you see like social distancing, this map was created during COVID. And so the purpose was to show you like on which sidewalk social distancing was possible and where social distancing just wasn't possible. But it's still, I find this to be a great tool still, because there are a lot of things that, you may want more of in your community. Like maybe you want more bus shelters, maybe you want more bike parking, maybe you want more street trees or benches or whatever the case may be. All of those sidewalk elements, for all of those sidewalk elements, you need sidewalks to be a certain width. And so you can see that, if the sidewalks aren't wide enough, then maybe this is why we don't have enough of these vital things that people need. And then, one thing you can do about that is say, okay, well, maybe if, we advocated for painted sidewalk extensions or things like that, that would be a way to kind of extend the sidewalks to create more space for things that will make, the neighborhood more inviting for pedestrians. And so, yeah, that is the end of my presentation. Again, I know it's a lot of information. I will share this presentation with all of you so that you have access to all the websites. And again, I'm happy to meet one-on-one with anybody to go into more detail about how to use any of these sites. But I'm going to stop sharing now. And any questions you may have or comments or whatnot, I'm open for.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ro. That was very, very insightful. I think we should definitely share the presentation beyond this committee. There's quite a few use cases, I think, for like environmental committee, parks committee that could use some of the tools mentioned there. So I see Doris, you have a question. Go ahead. You're muted.
Doris, you're on mute.
I want to thank you for a very comprehensive report.
Thank
There's a lot of information there for all of us to absorb. But one question I have, is there any data available about the number of tickets that buses are issuing, because buses now have cameras, about blocked bus stops?
That is something, that's something I would have to get back to you on. I'm going to ask our research team at TA. But yeah, I will get back to you on that. That's a very good question.
Because it's one of the major reasons for the reasons buses are so slow, not just in Bay Ridge, but citywide. And I
Yeah,
will
no,
tell
of
you,
course.
if there is a car double parked in a bus stop, the driver is not allowed to allow a handicapped or wheelchair passenger to get off the bus if they cannot get to the curb.
Yeah, no, it's really horrible.
That's it.
As someone who's dependent on buses myself, yeah, like I know how frustrating that is. So yeah, thank you. I can't believe I actually didn't think of that earlier. But yeah, so I'm gonna ask our
Well, so
research
that's
team.
okay. But if you can get back to us on that, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I know in one of our previous meetings, we had a presentation from the summer intern that gave information around like tickets for the local precinct. It would be interesting if there's like, in addition to just these buses here, getting information around like police, precinct ticketing information over time, right? As opposed to like a
Yes.
Yeah, the police precinct posts online.
Yeah, the police precinct data is actually pretty easily available from the NYPD.
And NYC Open Data has a lot of data available on summonses from red light cameras, and the state has an open data, so it's a little tricky in searching sometimes on those. Yeah, but I've not seen bus as a data set yet. Although
yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'm sure it's got to be publicly available somewhere. And I actually want to note that the information on red light cameras and on speeding in particular, I found very helpful when you want to look at like on which corridor speeding is the worst problem. Sometimes like I'll crunch through, where the most speeding tickets have been issued, and then I'll know, okay, maybe on this street we need some street design changes that'll reduce speeding. So either way, just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, I will definitely ask about that, bus ticketing. Any other questions?
More just a comment. I think these tools are great. I actually, the one that I really liked was the second to last one, which I had seen before, but I actually didn't realize that you could see the street design features on it, on the Vision Zero view. I think that's awesome. I actually looked up the intersection that we were just talking about in the previous presentation, 95th Street and 4th Avenue, where the elevator is going in for the Bay Ridge station. And Stephanie had some concerns about the visibility around that elevator. And because of this website that you point out, I can see that that intersection does not have an LPI and does not have any turn calming, both of which would probably make it a lot safer once that elevator goes in. So there you go. It's just I used it right away.
So we should put that request in tomorrow, absolutely. Right? Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Wow, I'm so glad that you're able to use these tools already. But yeah, like I found them to be extremely helpful too.
And I'm sure the sidewalk widths tool is going to be very useful for sidewalk cafe. Applications.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Actually, in the chat, Diane had mentioned that it's going to be very useful because that question comes up a lot. It's nice to have that tool handy, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, a quick question just on the sidewalk. You mentioned how the data was collected, because I see it has like park level data as well.
Wait, can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you know how that data was collected for the sidewalk widths?
Yeah, so I looked at the website and it says that it's basically based on New York City data sets. Yeah, so so I'm not sure exactly what those data sets are, but I know that when that website was first released, there was a lot of press about it. And so I'm sure I could find out like more about exactly how the information was computed, and I can send it to you away. So I've looked at it and I've looked at it on a lot of streets around me. And obviously I haven't gone out on those streets with measuring tape, right? Um, but, just anecdotally, like where it shows that sidewalks, in my neighborhood are really narrow, that's shown to be true. And when I look at, areas where the, mapper tool says that the sidewalks are wider, that's been true in my experience. So it seems to be pretty accurate.
Any other questions? Discussion. Awesome. Thank you, Rose, for your very complete presentation.
Yeah, of course. So I'll send out, the tool to Josephine to make sure, to make sure that you all get it. And unfortunately, I do have to leave the meeting now. But I will also share my information so that if anyone wants to talk further, I'll be available.
Okay, well, and I'll share that as well. I did get the link, and I was able now to download the presentation, so I'll be able to share that
Oh, okay.
with the board. So thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for the opportunity. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, so Josephine, I apologize. I missed your email until I really got to the meeting here. But I know you mentioned sent across that Staley had a resolution that he wanted to discuss. I think what we can do for that is at our next meeting go into detail, since that wasn't circulated beforehand, to the committee. But maybe I'll give Staley an opportunity just to quickly preview that, give the committee some time to consider it and think about it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think
I'm going to share my screen.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I was hoping this is something that we could think about. Certainly, what I've sort of written out here is nothing definitive. It's just to kind of like get the gears turning and get us thinking a little bit. But I think the first step towards accomplishing all of these things that we've been talking about, right? Trying to make our streets safer and more equitable and so forth. The very first step is to commit to doing it. I feel pretty strongly that our board should commit to no pedestrian fatalities in 2025. And I think that is, obviously we don't control everything, right? But I think it's a laudable goal. And I also think it's fully attainable. In the last 5 of the last 10 years in this community district have had no pedestrian fatalities. It's really only in the last couple of years that we've seen this uptick, which means that that 0 is achievable. So I put together like a little resolution. I'm not entirely sure how these are written on our board, but the idea is here's just a commitment toward being focused on zero fatalities and a significant reduction in injuries. So I'd love to people think about it.
Jack, Chris has his hand raised. Chris Cesarani.
No, I was going to say I really like the idea, and maybe amongst the committee in discussion we come up with like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know a number, but maybe perhaps like 3 bullet, for example, of action items to include in that, action items meaning specific goals that we would like to focus on as a committee and as a community board as part of that resolution.
Thank you. So that means everyone has homework before our next meeting. And I will email this out. We got this right before the meeting. So Staley, I'll send this out, and we will be meeting again before the November board meeting, so we could talk about it some more. So I'll send that out to you by email tomorrow.
Fantastic. So we have homework. We have the tools to do some of the homework. So looking forward to seeing some of those potential ideas. I know last meeting we talked about the creation of like a separate pedestrian safety subcommittee or task force. I'm not totally sure what the next step for that is, Josephine. How does that get created, accomplished?
Yeah, so from the last meeting, I heard from one person, although tonight I heard from a second person, and maybe even a third. So if you are interested, please let us know. I will share that with the board as well. And once we get a nice group together, we'll set up a meeting. And we could talk about putting that together to meet regularly.
I was gonna say, I'll add that I attended the Parks Committee meeting this week because I was interested in the presentations. And after the meeting, spoke to Daniel and Chris Ellison, who I think would be natural members of a task force like this, and they were both extremely interested in participating.
Great.
So
we have a nice core group. So we'll give everyone one more, I'll send out an email, and then we can, we'll set that up, Jack.
Great. I see Dorothy just raising her hand.
Just a comment on that. Many years ago, we did have a subcommittee on pedestrian safety, and it operated very much independently from the Traffic and Transportation Committee. A chair was appointed and was responsible for all of the meetings and all of the data and distribution of the data. So it was not, and it was very effective, and it was a really important report, and it gave us a lot of homework, anyone who's on the subcommittee.
That's a good point. I think
we did street by street surveys.
That's a really good point. I think we should utilize a resolution like this to properly set up the committee and really identify, as you mentioned, potential a chairperson to take a lead on that, and to provide goals for what the committee is meant to do. Potentially, Chris just mentioned chat around communication with the precinct, but other things that this committee want to do and want to hear about from that report as outcome. So think about that as potential items to put into the upcoming resolution to actually officialize it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stop my share. So that's all we have on the agenda.
Great. Talk to you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks all for your time.
Okay, thank you all. Have a
Thank
good night.
you, Jack.